Michael did write that, so that's great. Okay, it's time for a virtual hug. Yeah, good morning. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a big difference between the style of mothering from, say, the 50s and 60s till now. I've got a list here, a couple of tips from that classic mom. The classic mom says, stuff a miniature marshmallow in the bottom of a sugar cone to prevent ice cream drips. The modern mother says, just suck the ice cream out of the bottom of the cone. The classic mom says, when a cake recipe calls for flouring the baking pan, use a bit of the dry cake mix instead. There won't be any white mess on the outside of the cake. The modern mother says, go to the grocery store. They even decorate it for you. The classic mother says, wrap celery in aluminum foil when putting in the refrigerator and it will keep for weeks. Modern mom says, celery? Never heard of it. Classic mom says, brush some egg whites over the pie crust before baking to yield a beautiful, glossy finish. Modern mom says, are you sure the directions on the Mrs. Smith frozen pie box don't say anything about brushing egg whites over the crust? And then the classic mom says, don't throw out that leftover wine. Freeze it into ice cubes for future use in casseroles and sauces. The modern mom says, leftover wine? Never heard of it. So if you have ever served in the role of a mother, let me on behalf, of all of you out there on Facebook land too, just thank you. Thank you so much for what you've done. I know that there have been many experiences, and as Carla expressed a few moments ago, a lot of times we're thrust into a mother role, even though that wasn't perhaps our plan, but we place our lives in divine order. And as I was just joking, there's that image of motherhood we saw in this TV shows from the 1950s and 60s, Ozzie and Harriet, Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, and all that. And then come around the 1980s, this genre of comedies around families changed. Suddenly we had in 1987 Married with Children, and in 1988 Roseanne, which now is morphed into the Connors. A mother's love comes in billions of shapes. But a mother's love does come. It comes through somebody, it comes through people who we would least have imagined were capable of doing it. So now just take a moment and think back. Now I know that some of you had very unpleasant experiences and others pleasant, but if you just kind of close your eyes and just think for a minute, what did your mother teach you? By example. Sometimes her example was on what not to do as an adult. And if you had an unpleasant experience, I want you to consider in the coming hours and days to just, in a meditation, allow your inner adult to go back in time and advocate for that inner child. It can do a remarkable job of just removing that emotional charge that comes from some of the trauma that some of us have faced. I hope in time you'll see the blessings of whether it's an unpleasant or a pleasant experience. Okay, you can open your eyes now. 100 years ago, there was a British officer who was stationed in India, and he and his wife lived in a house in this wilderness area. And the wife was out one day with her infant on her lap. She was just sitting in a bench, just taking in nature, and she sees a large monkey come and sit in the middle of this garden path and just looks at her for a few minutes, and then suddenly the monkey scampers off. And a few minutes later, the monkey returns with its infant and just sits there on the path looking at the woman, and they're looking back and forth and recognizing that connection, that mystical energy that is around and through mothers. I remember once back before the Soviet Union fell in 1989, seeing how there was a food shortage in Russia. And there was of course, a video story of it, on one of the evening news shows. And there's like people just standing in line for hours, and they would have these expandable tote bags. They nicknamed it the Perhaps. Perhaps I'll find food today. But the reporter asked the woman, said, "Why are you standing in line for hours?" And she said, "I have children to feed." What can we do today? One of the oddities of life is it can be challenging to pay back our mothers or pay back people who've been kind to us or given us wisdom, especially if your mom has already passed on. But we can pay it forward. We can take those lessons that we learned from our parents and pass them along to the people we interact with, to children, to just anybody. Your experience have made you what you are. As we all go through life, we find ourselves establishing who we are, and various things become important. Early on in life, it's very important to know what other people are saying about me. What are the labels that I'm getting slapped on me, and am I living those labels? Earlier I spoke to you of our inner child, and going into that inner child and being willing to kind of take the emotional charge out of some of the experiences that we've had. Now, I want you to find your inner child, and we're going to go have a little bit of fun with a classic children's book. And as you may have noticed, their classic children's books have usually a very nice message within them, even if it's like in this case, the book is Are You My Mother? It was published in 1960. So many of us have experienced this either as children or as adults with children. Of course, the books were designed by the Cat in the Hat books, the Dr. Seuss people that teach little kids how to read by just going through a picture book. And there's some fun symbolism in this one. And Are You My Mother was written and illustrated by P.D. Eastman. And I'll put some of the pages up here on the screen. So let's start here. A mother bird sat on her egg. The egg jumped. "Oh no," said the mother bird. "My baby will be here any minute, and he'll want to eat. I must get something for my baby bird to eat." So she flew away. The egg jumped, and out came a baby bird. "Where is my mother?" he said, looking around. He looked for her. He looked up, but he did not see her. He looked down, but he did not see her. "I'll go look for her," he said, and away he went. Out of the nest he plummeted, down, 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 a long way down, and he reached the ground. He could not fly, but he could walk. "Now I will go and find my mother," he said. He did not know what his mother looked like. He went right by her when she was off in the field pulling up a worm, but he did not see her. He came to a kitten. He looked up at the kitten and said, "Are you my mother?" The kitten just looked at him, didn't say anything. The kitten was not his mother, so he went on. Soon he came to a hen. He said, "Are you my mother?" "No," said the hen. Well, the kitten was not his mother, and the hen was not his mother, so the baby bird went on. "I have to find my mother," he said. "Where could she be?" Soon he came to a dog. He said, "Are you my mother?" "No, I'm not your mother," said the dog. "Can't you see I'm a dog?" The kitten was not his mother, the hen was not his mother, the dog was not his mother. So the baby bird went on and came to a cow. "Are you my mother?" he asked the cow. "Now how could I be your mother? I'm a cow." And the baby bird began to wonder if he had a mother. So I don't know about you, but I remember those early years in grammar school and even in high school. And what seems familiar to me? What do I want to identify with? And so many times we latch our wagon to the wrong horse or wrong car. We start to just think that we need to go along to get along. We start out pretty innocent, but there's of course that very much a pressure to conform, to fit in. Of course, once we get, especially the high school, appearance is so important to us. And as the years go by, and as we sometimes take on emotional pain, we can find a way to try to suppress that emotional pain through substance abuse. That seems to work at first, but it doesn't work very well. And that's when we get to that point where we recognize that these things we've been trying don't work. This stuff does not work. So we look for something to remind us of who we are. So let's go back to the book here. The little bird says, wait a minute. I must have had a mother. I know I did. I have to find her, and I will. Well, this is why you're watching from Unity Spiritual Center. Rather than to give up, we go on. We know we need to find our true nature and allow serendipity to just lead us to that point. Okay, back to the book. The baby bird did not walk at this point. He ran. Then he saw an old abandoned car and thought, could this thing be my mother? No, it could not. The baby bird did not stop. He ran on and looked at the river and saw a boat. There she is. He called out to the boat, but the boat did not stop. The baby bird looked up in the sky. He saw a plane. Here I am, mother, he called out, but the plane didn't stop. So the baby bird went on. And just then the baby bird saw a big steam shovel. There she is, said the baby bird. There's my mother. He ran right up to it and jumped onto its shovel. Said, Mom, here I am. But the big thing just made a noise. Snort. Right away, the baby bird said, oh, you're not my mother. You're a snort. I have to get out of here. At that moment, the shovel started to go up, and the baby bird was trapped. The snort went up, and away it went, moving the baby bird. But now, where was the shovel going, he wondered. What is the snort going to do to me? I must get out of here. Help! To depart from the book, have you been there? You get yourself into a situation, you're like, holy cow, I got to get out of here. And we pray to God, God, if you'll just do this, I'll do that. But it is at those very moments when we have a crisis in our life, if we are wise enough to open our mind to that divine mind, we get the guidance on how to proceed. And in this case here, our little birdie was trying to find his mother. So, let's go on then. Especially when we don't have a clue, God will help. Just then the shovel came to a stop. The snort put the baby bird right back into the nest in the tree, and the baby bird was home. Just then the mother bird came back to the tree. Do you know who I am? She said to the baby bird. Yes, I know who you are, said the baby bird. You're not a kitten, you're not a hen, you're not a dog, you're not a cow, you're not a boat, you're not a plane, you're not a snort. You're a bird, and you must be my mother. The end. I touched on that fact of, labeling ourselves or letting other people label us. I'm going to turn to the Bible and read a passage for you. Now, in this particular passage, Jesus uses these terms, Son of Man and Son of God. Son of Man, when Jesus is talking about that, it's talking about the flesh and blood human. And Son of God, of course, is the spiritual being that we are having a human experience. And his apostle, Peter, represents faith. Now, in this particular passage, it's from the Gospel of Matthew, 16th chapter, starting with the 13th verse. When Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do men say that the Son of Man is? And they said, some say you're the reincarnation of John the Baptist. Others say Elijah. Others Jeremiah, or one of those prophets. He said to them, but who do you say I am? Simon Peter replied, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but from my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you, I now call you Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the powers of death shall not prevail against it. So finally we understand who we truly are. We have to go within to recognize that we are divine and all of the others around us are divine as well. We can affirm and embrace divine ideas like divine guidance and divine protection. And I guess it's never too late to have a happy childhood. I'm going to have Duncan go ahead and put up this week's takeaways, and I did post them there on the Facebook page. So we'll start out with, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Number 2, your experience has shaped who you are. Number 3, you have the choice of what to express. Number 4, pray divine order in your life. And number 5, you may not be able to pay it back, but you can pay it forward. And I have a video I want to show you. You can actually find it on YouTube, and it's under the title, What Will You Say? They interviewed people from all walks of life about what would they say to their mother right now if they had a chance.
When I move out one day, my mom will be very sad.
I feel my mom's love in my heart, like, it's right here. I'm feeling it right now.
Sometimes I love her, sometimes I don't. When I'm angry, I don't.
My mom is everything to me. She just is this ray of energy and sunlight and positivity.
The thing that I wish I could have done more of is thanking her.
Didn't matter what shape I was in, I could always come home to Mom. My mom was basically the glue that held me together.
When I left the Philippines, I knew that my son will be in good hands because I know my mom will take care of him.
My mom is kind of smart, you know? Dad's smart. If I would say like 1 to 10, it would be a 5.
Maybe my poor dad got the raw end of the deal, but I do remember my mother saying to him when there was an argument about something I'd done, she says, "You don't want to hurt her spirit." I remember that.
My mom was diagnosed with a really rare disease about 12 hours before she died. So we didn't get a lot of time to talk or to say goodbye, but she did get to say that she loved me, which were her last words. And I cherish that because I've been able to hang on to it.
I'm probably going to say to my mom, "You're a wonderful person. And you're my mentor." I tie an invisible string to my heart, and she ties the same one to her heart, and it's always attached together.
My mother, she struggled a lot with addiction. Sorry, I'm getting upset. Yeah, it was hard.
You know, you have partners, you have friends, you have kids, but there is nobody else who will ever care about you as much.
My son now always tells me, "I love you, Mama." But for 48 years, you realize I didn't say I love you to my mom.
I can think of 3 words. I forgive you.
You were a good mom. You did really good.
Thank you. I love you, Mom.
And as I mentioned, that's on YouTube under the title, What Will You Say? Our closing Bible verse is from the book of Proverbs, 31st chapter, 28th verse. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done well, but you surpass them all. Charm is an illusion and beauty fleeting, but a woman aligned with God is to be praised. Praise her for the fruits of her labor, and let her works bring her honor. May you always be open to God's guidance and grace. Let's prepare for meditation.